one and all, to the party that never ends. I'm not there, but I'm kind of here. I'm like here, but not here. Welcome to Thursday, whatever it is. So I'm not here, obviously. I am at my child's school, if you must know, doing trunk or treat because you got to do that type of stuff, and I'm excited to do that type of stuff. So let's get to today's wonderful event. Today, we are going to be learning about immigration. What you need to do is you need to go back there to that wonderful table where it says Take Hon, and you're going to get two sheets, okay? You're going to get the first sheet is going to be this immigration guided notes sheet, and you also need to get this bonus activity, which is nothing bonus about it. It's actually homework. We're going to do this last, though. So grab both of these and have a seat. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Go, go, go. Grab the sheet. Yes, yes, yes. Don't run. Don't hit each other. Don't trip each other. Just grab the sheet. Come back to your seats in a nice, calm fashion. You should be back there in 3, 2, and everybody's there. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Today we're going to do the following things. We're going to talk about Emma Lazarus and Prescott Hall. We're going to talk about the melting pot of America. We're going to talk about your ancestry and think about your ancestry during this time. And also the different experiences of people coming over to our country in the late 1800s and early 1900s. We're going to talk about the Irish, German, Italian, Chinese, and Japanese experience. And then finally, you'll have some time to work on your worksheet. So let's get to that study guide. Now, your study guide is broken down into parts. It's even color coordinated. The first stuff is the old stuff, highlighted in yellow. And it's letter A. That's on the first page. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Go to the next side, just so you look at this. The next section is B, and this is also some time we'll spend today is in section B. It's in red, and that's the Irish, German, Italian, Japanese, and Chinese experience. There's some terms and laws that we'll talk about, as well as other things. Now, you may already have this sheet. Okay, you might already have this sheet, and that's fine. You should have taken these out. You should have noticed it when you went back there that you already had this sheet, and that's fine. But here we go, and then we're going to talk about people and places and also stuff on the back we'll get into today. So let's start with the old stuff. Ever go to the front page of your study guide? And on the front page of your study guide, I want you to look at this old stuff. And this should be stuff that pops into your head instantaneously. So let's go through it one at a time. Which invention caused more slavery? Everybody say it. 3, 2, 1. Cotton gin for number 1. Yes, this is old stuff. You've had this since the dawn of time. So cotton gin, absolutely. The election of which president caused the secession of the southern states? That would be Abraham Lincoln. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Make sure you write this stuff on the blanks. This stuff will be on your test, but it's easy stuff. You've seen this 100 times. The Battle of Blank was started the fight in the Civil War. That was the Battle of Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter. The discovery of blank led to less people dying of infection during the Civil War. Bromine. So put down bromine for that one. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. This led to the formal ending of slavery at a federal level, and that is everywhere in the United States. That is the 13th Amendment. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. This led to the formal ending of slavery just in the Confederacy. That was the Emancipation Proclamation. Do your best with the spelling on that one. You got this. Now, if I'm going too fast, by all means, my substitute, you can push pause in this video anytime, or a student can push pause as you're filling this out. That's totally fine. 7. The formal ending of fighting of the Civil War happened because who signed the surrender? That was Robert E. Lee. You can just put his last name Lee for that one. 8. Andrew Johnson became president because blank. He became president because Lincoln was shot. That's why. 9. His innovation of making steel. Ooh. He had a beard of steel. That was Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie for number 9. That's from last unit. 10, his innovation of the oil pipelines. He's oil Rockefeller to the ground. That's John Rockefeller. You can just put Rockefeller for him. That's totally fine. The invention of the light bulb. Thomas Edison. And his innovation of alternating current would be Nikola Tesla. So those are the 4 people you need to know from last unit. Okay, now we're going to jump in to this next section called immigration. So as we do this, I'm going to push pause because I don't want to mess up it too much. This is the second take. I mean, technology, I'm telling you, it's not like peanut butter and jelly. It doesn't really mix together. But we're going to do second take here. So what we're going to do is we just got our wonderful packets in front of us. We're working on this one piece at a time. What we're going to talk about right now is we're going to jump in here. I think we're right about here. So here we go. So one of the things I want you to look at, go to the next section of your study guide, your guided notes that you're going to look at, is going to be Oh, we already did this. We talked about the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment. We already just talked about the old stuff. We're going to talk about people and places. So what I want you to do is, on your study guide, go to people and places. Now, hopefully this works this time. So people and places, that's section D. It's the orange one. We're going to talk about two people. You will see that there's Emma Lazarus right there, and you'll also see there's Prescott Hall in that section. So we'll go identify those right now. And we're going to look at what each one of them believed about immigration. To do that, I want to look at poems that both of these people wrote, Emma Lazarus and Prescott Hall. The first one we're going to talk about is Emma Lazarus. You might recognize this. It's the Statue of Liberty. And Emma Lazarus was the one who wrote the poem that sits at the base of the Statue of Liberty. This poem goes as follows, and I'll do my best to do an oratory of this. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And if you break this down, what Emma Lazarus is saying is, give me your wretched refuse of teeming shore. Give me the people that need help the most. Give me the people that others would not take. Send these, the homeless, people that don't have the opportunities, the wealth. Bring them over to our country. A place that they could eventually get that wealth, eventually get those homes. The tempest tossed. The world has not been kind to these people. Bring them to us. Send them to me. I lift my lamp to bring them to my shore. Basically, Emma Lazarus is saying we will take anybody because we're a country that embraces cultural differences. We embrace religious differences. We embrace the differences that this world has because through our differences, we can become a better country if we work together. That is the message of Emma Lazarus. So let's look on the other side of that coin. Prescott Hall. Here's his poem. Enough, enough, we want no more of ye immigrant from a foreign shore. Already is our land overrun with toiler, beggar, thief, and scum. Prescott Hall has a completely different view of immigration. He is viewing immigration as we have enough, we don't want any more. Matter of fact, he labels immigrants as toiler, beggar, thief, and scum. He's labeling them as bad characteristics. He is saying definitely 100% no immigration. And what you're going to do on your guys' study guide, under that section, under that letter D of people and places, you are going to write down next to Emma Lazarus, yes, immigration. And the reason why you're doing that is because we're going to keep it simple in this class. She was saying, yes, more immigration. Yes, bring them. We will take them. They will bring something to our society. And then you have Prescott Hall is the other side of that coin. He's saying no immigration. We don't want you. We have enough. The rest of you guys are just scum, toilers, beggars. We don't want you. So these are the two people that we're going to use as a way to look at this unit as the polar opposites of beliefs. And hopefully by the end of this unit, we will be able to determine where are we now, where were we then, and where were we in between these two philosophies. And speaking of that, here's your philosophy. Here's the big compelling question for the unit. Has America's immigration philosophy been that of Emma Lazarus or Prescott Hall, according to history? Your guys' short answer question on your test is this question. You're going to make an argument. Are we more Emma Lazarus today? Or are we more Prescott Hall based on what we've done, what we say, what we do? We're going to skip these right now. I'm going to do this roughly. Just know that our country has been a place of immigration since its conception. We have different waves of immigrants that come in at different times. And each time they usually face the exact same ridicule, disrespect as the last group. That's just how it goes. We're lazy in our discrimination, and we'll talk about that as we're talking about these different groups. So I'm not going to go through a long-winded explanation, but just understand immigration is not just our country, but most countries on the planet. We originated most of the human species from this place right here in Africa. We disseminated up to Europe, and over the time, over thousands and thousands of years, there was an ice bridge between Alaska and Russia, and people crossed that ice bridge and eventually landed to northern Canada and make their way down south to all the way to South America. And those people were the ancestors of the Native Americans that we know. Now, after a long period of time, you have people that will discover the Americas, which is a loose term since people already lived here, but Europeans will discover Americas, we'll make that better. When they do, they start colonizing over in the Americas. Spain takes actually the majority of things in North America. You can see here with Mexico and the vast majority of the western part of the now United States. You have Britain that would take parts of Canada as well as France does, and also Britain will take the original colonies of America that we talked about last year. We're going to skip this real quick. What does a melting pot mean? Anybody in this class know what a melting pot means? I see a lot of hands not up. That's sad. A melting pot described what people used to put in a giant iron cast cauldron. This iron cast cauldron, what they would do is they would put different materials in, different types of metals, and they would melt them. And all of them have different melting points, but they would heat them up till they were all melted as a liquid. And then when they would solidify, you would have some sort of substance that would have multiple metals melded together for one object. And that is what they describe America as. We're a melting pot because we are not just one person, we are several. And our several people that live here have different cultures and beliefs and religions and languages and experiences. And that's why we're a melting pot, because since the beginning of our country, we have been that, and today we still remain that, a place of multiple different points of view. Some of the things that separate us but also bind us together are these different things that we consider a melting pot. Our languages. We have, yes, many people speak English in our country, but not only that, we have 43 million that can speak Spanish and Chinese. There's a few thousand there, and actually a few million there, and Vietnamese, another million there. So lots of different languages spoken in our country. Religions. We have tons of religions in our country. We have Protestantism, Catholicism, we have non-specific Christian, Mormonism, Judaism, other religions in general, which includes the Islamic faith, unaffiliated organizations, tons of different religions. We have different races, tons of different races. We are a melting pot. We are not of one people, we are of many people in our country. And we have different political beliefs, array of them. I know we only see blue and red this time of year, and we only see blue and red in the news, but there's tons of different political beliefs that range from different topics. So with that said, we are going to go to terms and laws. I'm going to push pause on this right now, and I will be back with you shortly. Please be ready and tune in next time. I think I am. We'll see. So here we go. We're going to talk about terms. Go to section C in your books, your packets. Section C, which is terms and laws. So section C, the blue section, we're going to talk about a lot of different, actually we're going to talk about really just one law today. And then we'll get into some of those other terms later. I think we actually touched upon some of them already. So the Naturalization Act of 1790 is the first law ever to be passed on immigration. So in that section, you will see the Naturalization Act of 1790, and that is the first law ever on immigration. So I'd put that down next to that, where you see Naturalization Act of 1790. Please put down first law on immigration. First law on immigration. And what did it say? It said the following. The Naturalization Act of 1790 allows any free white person of good character. Already our first law does show a discrimination element to this. If you are non-white, then you would not qualify to immigrate over here according to this law. Who has been living in the United States for 2 years or longer to apply for citizenship. Without citizenship, non-white residents are denied basic constitutional protections, including the right to vote, own property, and testify in court. All things that protect you as an individual citizen in a country. So yeah, our first law, it's a little worse for wear when it comes to discrimination. We're going to skip past this. What was the first political party? This is just a fact to know. The first political party was the Know Nothings. And the Know Nothings, they were just completely against immigration whatsoever. And Prescott Hall was a leading member of that group. So we'll talk about your ancestry, but let's go to letter B. We're going to go to green B here. Yeah, we're flipping around a lot, and that's okay. Green B is going to be the different people from different countries. So let's talk about these. Now, what you're going to notice is some of them, actually a lot of them, have the same reasons for coming over. Let's start with the Irish. Now, some of you guys might have Irish heritage. I know I do. And one of the things, the reason why they came over was religious freedom. That red blotch right there at the top, religious freedom. That idea of religious freedom not only inspired our original ancestors who founded our country to come over, it is one of the backbone reasons why most of the people on this list came over. So don't put on the sheet of paper there, they came over here for religious freedom. That's not going to help you out too much. As a matter of fact, just wait to the end because I got a cheat sheet for each one of these, okay? They also came because of poor conditions and economic hopes. Guess what? That yellow section, it shows up a whole lot for pretty much every one of these groups. So that doesn't distinguish them from everybody else. How about blue? Political reasons. They were basically indentured servants and serving in the British Army. Yeah, that's also a reason why the Germans came over, and a little bit for the reason the Italians came over. So these first three, these highlighted things, these are all things that were true for all these other groups, not just the Irish. So why is that one at the bottom not highlighted? Because that's kind of unique to them. There was a potato famine. Their farmland was ravaged by a disease that plagued the number one crop of their country, the potato. And because the potato went the way of the dodo, so too did the people that needed to eat those potatoes. So, and one of the reasons that make them unique to these other three conditions, religious freedom, poor conditions, and political reasons, is that potato famine. That is unique to the Irish. So no, it's not the most important, absolutely not, but it differentiates, it makes them different than those other groups. So that's probably what you're going to write down, but don't you worry, I'm going to get to a cheat sheet slide in just a minute. Estimated 1/3 of all immigrants to the United States are going to be, in this particular time, we're going to be from the Irish. Now, they fought discrimination. They would go to places like this sign right here. It says help wanted, and they outline right there, no Irish. This is actually was a strip, a drawn strip that was put into different newspapers at the time, basically to show that the Irish, we didn't want to hire you. This was something that went back. The Irish faced very similar discrimination that you would see people face today with immigration. The way we discriminate people based on immigration is something we've done forever. We're a country of immigrants, and at the same time, we're a country of immigrants that has, over time, disgruntled and disparaged people that have immigrated over here. We did it to the Irish. Right here was another thing that was faced with the Irish. A literacy test. This is a political cartoon in which you have Uncle Sam, who represents America, is behind this giant wall with spikes coming out of it, and this wall is called literacy test. A literacy test tests your ability to read. And back then, the only people that knew how to read were the rich, people that were wealthy. This was not only a test to determine or try to keep people out that were that couldn't read. It was a test to try to get people out that were poor. Let's talk about the German experience. Don't worry, we're going to write stuff down on your sheet in just a minute. I got a purple slide coming up. Why did the Germans immigrate? Well, look at that. It's almost the same reasons. Matter of fact, these are the same reasons, the last one. Religious refuge. In other words, they wanted religious freedom. They had political reasons. They had to join the German army. And they were also in a country that had poor conditions and made it so it was hard to find food and land to farm on. There was tons of stuff put into newspapers that were anti-German back then. People would go on stump speeches, like you would see politicians today, and talk about how bad the Germans were. This was right here part of a newsletter talking bad about the Germans. This right here is a political cartoon that falls into a stereotype about Germans. We talked about stereotypes when we talked about the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment in the Nakarima. So this one says, if the town goes dry, us Germans will hang together. What this means is Germans, in the eyes of Americans back then, one of the stereotypes they put on them is that Germans were a bunch of alcoholics. And they're saying that if your town runs out of alcohol, who should you blame? According to this, the Germans. And what should you do to them? Well, it doesn't look too pleasant, does it? This right here shows that the way we have treated immigrants over the history of our country has relatively been the same. Stereotypes, scapegoating, that type of thing. Let's talk about the Italian experience. So the Italian immigrant experience. Some of you guys may have Italian roots. So what was the stereotype of the Italian immigrants? They were considered by people as violent people, as criminals. Now we'll get into those stereotypes in just a minute. They came over because of poverty and religious refuge. A little bit different is disease, natural disasters. You know what? That's kind of similar to the potato famine, so we can't really use that for them. So unfortunately, to differentiate, let's talk about their experience while they were here. They were seen by people as being violent, as being people that would cause problems to societies because they're criminals. Now, they actually didn't commit any more crimes than the average American. which is true, by the way, for immigrant groups that right now. They don't commit as many crimes as the average American, but they're labeled as criminals, and that stereotype becomes the face of those people, even though it's not warranted in fact. So let's talk about real quick one of the experiences that they had. A chief of police was found shot to death, and this is going to be in Louisiana. And the mayor blamed Sicilian gangsters. Sicilian was a term referencing the Italian immigrants. And what they did is they rounded up 100 Italian Americans and they put them in their local jail system. Eventually, 19 were put on trial. The nation's Italian immigrants watched nervously and found not guilty due to lack of evidence. In other words, these Italian immigrants were blamed for a crime they didn't commit. The court system recognized they didn't commit this crime and let them go. But it doesn't end there. A mob of 10,000 people will storm this jail cell filled with other people that were Italians in New Orleans, and they dragged 11 Sicilians out from their cells and lynched them. 2 men were in jail for other offenses, not the one for killing the sheriff. So the people labeled as criminals were the ones that were attacked by a mob of criminals. So again, stereotypes have a problem in society. If you keep saying this group of people does this, if it's not based on fact especially, people will take action against them, and that's what happened here. And we're going to keep cruising through here. We will start up again on the Chinese experience, but we're not going to be done yet. I got a cheat sheet for you. You got to trust in me, okay? I got a cheat sheet for you, so don't worry. We're going to stick with these people, and we're going to go on from here. Now we're going to pick up from the Chinese and Japanese experience. Now, both of them came over for the gold rush. Now, the gold rush, we talked about this a little bit with the Native American unit, was not really a big deal for the people going over there as far as making a bunch of gold. Most people didn't make gold on the gold rush. But anyway, the Chinese came over, and they're actually responsible for building most of our railroads. They were the ones that would go into these mines, these areas where they were trying to blow up hills and mountains to lay railroad track with this nitroglycerin, and that's what they used to explode up. Nitroglycerin, this liquid form, is very volatile. You shake it up too much, guess what happens? Boom, shakalaka, you're done. So they actually risked their lives building most of the our railroad system that would go from East Coast to West Coast. They would settle eventually, mostly in California as well as other places. But they came for the gold rush, and the big thing for them is they were seeking fortune. They came here for many of the same reasons as everybody else. Those other 3 groups came over here because they were looking for fortune too. In the long term, for each one of these groups, they found it because in the long-term circumstances of what they came from, their kids and their kids' would have a better life over here. But it took some bumps and bruises from the stereotypes and discrimination that I talked about. So yeah, the Chinese, they built most of our railroads. They were part of that group of people that laid down the transcontinental railroad. Although Chinese immigrants make up only about 0.002% of the United States population, white workers blamed them for low wages. Now I want you to understand this. Every group I just mentioned, the Irish, the Italian, and the German immigrants, they were all blamed of stealing American jobs. Same thing with the Chinese and the Japanese. Now, the Chinese, if you look at this, they were 0.002% of the population. Anyone arguing they were taking all American jobs doesn't know how math works. But this is not a something that's just happened once. One of the things that people do is they want to find a scapegoat. They want to find someone to blame for their problems. And for immigrants, one of the number one things that they get blamed for is taking jobs from whatever country they're going into. And in this case, they were taking the jobs that nobody wanted, specifically walking into mountains with nitroglycerin and exploding holes into them to lay down railroad track. So yeah, it just factually isn't true that they were taking American jobs. It's just something that comes up over and over again to talk bad about immigrants. It's done that. It's been like that for almost every immigrant group that you can think of that's come over here. There was anti-Asian sentiment that grew. A lot of it came out of the Know Nothing Party in Prescott Hall as well as others. You will see several people that will post different things about the Chinese, like Chinese, no. There was different meetings and different groups to say we should exclude Chinese from this district or this county. There was meetings, like I said, in schools as well as other public events that try to get people to ratify laws that would keep Chinese people out of their states. Political cartoons like this were put up. The Chinese wall around the United States. They were talking about building a wall around the United States, either figuratively or literally, to keep the Chinese out. There's also a reference to the Great Wall of China. They wanted to put the Chinese in different schools. They would boycott Chinese restaurants and Chinese businesses to try to get them to leave the country. And then this right here is an important one. You'll find this on your study guide. This right here is a political cartoon that shows a bunch of different things. One, it shows Uncle Sam being swallowed, being devoured by two immigrant groups, the Irish and the Chinese. And as Uncle Sam gets swallowed, you see the Chinese turn upon the Irish group. What this is saying is, watch out, America. These two groups will take us over. They will devour us. And then it's also to scare the Irish against the Chinese because, hey, when they're done with us, they're coming for you. This was Uncle Sam Chinese Exclusion Act that was passed that actually banned banned the bringing in of more immigrants from China after a certain period of time. So yeah, there was definitely a series of propaganda used to keep Chinese people out, and when they were here, to keep people from flourishing while they were over here. The Japanese experience, very similar to the Chinese experience. They came over for the gold rush, but where they went to was different. They actually went to Hawaii, and they would become Hawaiian farmers. And this is an important thing. It's actually kind of ironic considering what we're going to talk about in World War II. The Japanese are the ones that attack Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and many of their people that used to come from Japan actually settled there when they immigrated over here. They would find signs like this, like the Japanese, don't let the sun set on you here, keep moving. This is Rose Hill basically saying, do not show up to our town, we don't want you here. Very similar type of things that you would see in the civil rights movement with African Americans in the South. Instructions for all Japanese people, basically they had a list of what Japanese people had to do in their town that other people didn't have to follow. Again, very similar to what you see in the Civil Rights Unit. And we will talk about the Mexican experience as well, but let's get to this cheat sheet that I kept promising you. There is a cheat sheet here. The Irish, the German, Italian, and Japanese, and Chinese. Here's what you should write down. Irish, they came over because potato famine. That's what you should write down in that sheet. Now, by all means, please pause this for the students if they need it. But this right here, remember, 5 words or less for each person. Germany, German immigrants, stereotype of being heavy drinkers. That's the stereotype. They weren't heavy drinkers. They didn't drink more than any other average American, but that's the stereotype that was placed on them. And the reason why we're using that as a way to remember them is because they came over for very similar reasons as everybody else. So this is something that differentiates them. They all came over for religious freedom, for political reasons, and to get some sort of better life for themselves because the economics at home of their home country wasn't there. The Italians, they were stereotyped as being criminals. They weren't. They didn't commit crimes anywhere near as much as the average American, but that's the stereotype. The Japanese, gold rush / settled in Hawaii. And then the Chinese, gold rush / built railroads. So if you have to, you can pause this or rewind it. I am going to move on to our last section. So let me push pause, and I will be with you in just a minute. The last thing you're going to do for me today is work on this worksheet. Okay? This worksheet is not a bonus activity. It says bonus activity, but you need to do it. It's due tomorrow, along with all the notes that you took on the study guide. Okay? You have the remainder of the hour to finish this. Whatever you don't get done, you work on in your advisory class or work on it at home. Good old homework. So this right here, this side, is a chart that has information about different territories of Europe as well as other parts of the world. It's going to tell you numbers. It's going to tell you facts and figures and things about this. You are going to read this graph to answer these questions on this side right here. So if you look at this side, number 1, on this chart, Italy and Greece are considered to be in what section of Europe? So what you're going to do here is you're going to go over here and you're going to try to find Italy and Greece in whatever section you find them, whether it's Northwestern Europe, which is NW Europe, or Central Europe, or E Europe, which is East Europe, or South Europe, which is S Europe, or Americas, or Asia and Pacific Islands. Where are those two found? Where is Italy and Greece found? Which section is it? You're going to write that down for the answer. Number 2, Taken as a whole, which section of the world sent the most amount of immigrants to the United States in this period? Was it Europe, Asia, or the Americas? So you'll look up here to send who sent the most. You will see numbers from the 1870s to 1880s to 1890s, 1900s. Use this graph. Look at the numbers. Who sent the most over this time period? Which group? Use this chart. Use this to answer these questions. It is due first thing tomorrow, like literally when you walk in. That is when it's going to be due. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.